My problem I had with the ballhead jig, and I could never figure it out, it was always hooked upside down in their mouth. Like if they were hooked in the tongue, you know what I mean? Or they'd come up and jump and throw it, you know? Out here running around with the Mega Live, there's a lot of bait on this end of the lake. Saw this one sitting out there and run that Slip Shad Head from Lure Parts Online. You know, it's a head that I designed about 3 or 4 years ago. As you can see, once it's rigged up, that swim bait will slide up and down the line. You put a number 6 or a number 8 treble hook in it, depending on what size swim bait you're using. And the beauty of this is once them fish get that and get that treble hook in their mouth, that bait slides up the line, so they have no leverage to throw that bait. And 90% of the time, those fish are hooked in the roof of the mouth right where you want them. You know, another big key to this is that you don't go through a lot of swim baits. You know, I've caught 8, 9, 10 fish on this one swim bait already, and as you can see, it's still in really good condition. I had a deal on the St. Lawrence River where I was catching every single fish I caught on this head, and in the 3 days that I fished, I only used 3 swim baits. So there's something to be said about being able to preserve your bait and catch a lot of fish on one bait. As you can see, it's a simple rig. I think we're throwing to 3/8 today. And you tie your treble hook on it, you stick it right in the back of the bait, just like that. The other beauty of that is instead of having a hook that runs all the way through this bait, almost like restricting the action of the swim bait, that treble hook being in the back lets that swim bait come alive, lets it rock, and almost just looks like it's very natural, and it almost looks like a live bait fish swimming through the water. Got another one. That's a better one. Yeah, there was 4 or 5 of them that time. God, look at the one that's with him. Look at all of them. There's a pile of them. The one's got the swim bait in his mouth. The other one right here. That was cool. Look at them all. 5 or 6 of them there together. I know they're hard to see, but the one actually had the swim bait when it was slid up the line. He had it in his mouth. So. All right. Oops, sorry, fish. There you go. We lost the swim bait, but great hookups. Like I said, the whole key to that is they don't have the leverage of that swim bait to be able to throw it. I gotta get a pair of pliers. Got it. That was cool. Oh, that's a crappie. Look at that. Multi-species day. Ooh, even gets the crappies in the roof of the mouth. You know, I've never been a big swim bait guy, you know, and I think that just comes with where I grew up on the Ohio River, where we were always accustomed to using really little, small, tiny baits. Got him. That was cool. So I never got into the big swim bait deal. Just some smaller, you know, 4-inch and under sizes. Are always what I am comfortable with, kind of my comfort zone. So typically for me, a 2.8 or, you know, up to a 4-inch like we're throwing here today is typically my size of choice. So. And you know, at the end of the day, that's a good tournament fish. And he's hooked right where we want him to be. The cool thing about this head design is that you can fish a wide variety of swim bait sizes. You know, we got it available from a 1/8 all the way up to a 1/2 ounce. So regardless if you're out here fishing on live like we're doing right now with a 4-inch swim bait and a 3/8 ounce head, or you're up, you know, on the Great Lakes or the St. Lawrence River fishing shallow with an 1/8 ounce, it just fits the bill perfectly. Lots of options. You know, typically for me when I'm using these swim baits, you know, you just keep hearing me harp on, I like swim baits that are 4 inches or smaller. You know, typically, like today here, you can see I got a casting rod laying up here. That's typically what I'll throw my 4-inch size on when I'm using a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce size head, maybe even down to a 1/4. I like to throw it on a casting rod. You know, depending on how deep I'm trying to get that bait is gonna determine what pound test line, typically 12 or 15 pound Invis-X from Seagar. If I want to get that bait a little bit deeper, I may go down to 10 pound, but typically for me on my casting stuff, I don't like to go any smaller than 10. Then when I'm throwing that smaller type swim bait, you know, 1/8 ounce, 3/16 ounce, maybe even up to a 1/4 ounce head, I like to throw that on a spinning rod. You know, typically with those smaller heads, I'm using that 2.5 or that 2.8 size swim bait. So it's a lot easier to cast on a spinning rod than it is on a casting rod. especially when you're up there in the Great Lakes and you're in that clean water, or even anywhere where you're in clean water. To be able to throw that bait really far is a big plus, and I just feel like on a spinning rod it's a lot easier to do that, you know. And typically for me, when I'm throwing that smaller size swim bait, I go with a 10-pound smackdown flash green and about an 8 to 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. It's really cool to be able to have two options. You know, some guys don't like spinning rods, some guys don't like to throw their swim baits on casting rods. You know, you may be a guy on the TVA or in Texas where you're ledge fishing with a 1/2 ounce and a 6-7 inch swim bait on here, so you're definitely gonna need a casting rod. So like I said, the beauty of this deal and this presentation is that it gives you a lot of options, you know, from baits to rods to line size. You can absolutely customize it to exactly what you want. Beauty of the Slip Shad Head. See where that fish is hooked? Right in the roof of the mouth.